It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Good morning, you beauties. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to it. It is a Friday at last. It's been a week I'm getting from a lot of people on many levels of life. It's been a week and a very busy one in the world of news, locally and abroad. Unfortunately, we've got our very own news editor that we've claimed, kind of. We just grabbed him off the street and we brought him in and we've made him our own. Roy Simpson is here to help us unpack, explore and understand and contextualize the news that can very often scare us, and often just having a better understanding gives you that control and empowers you. So hopefully that's going to do that for you today. And we want you at home to join in on the discussion and share your thoughts, please, and your insights. You can do that on our WhatsApp line, 063 408 8863. Roy, I feel like we've cursed you because now every person's going to walk up to you and say, please, can you explain what's going on? Just what's happening here?
That's fine.
Just in summary,
taking me off the street.
But buddy, you are that guy for us, and you do put yourself out there figuratively on the streets to find out what's going on. And rather than terrifying me over these last few weeks, it's helped us a lot. So thank you so, so much. That being said...
Oh, dude, you know, there's so much going on. But I mean, I think electricity, this is the top talking point at the moment. On Tuesday, the regulations for the state of disaster over the electricity crisis, it was published. No curfew, no alcohol ban. Actually, we haven't heard much at all, really, exactly. But Roy, you know, when it comes to, I think when we all hear state of disaster, we all start panicking because we've lived through
We've got a post-traumatic
disaster.
stress.
Exactly, we have that little bit of PTSD, but here we have another state of disaster. It's very quiet. We don't exactly know what it entails. What's going on?
Well, as you say, they published the Government Gazette just recently. And the reason you're not really hearing anything is there's nothing sexy in here to hang a headline on.
Okay.
There's very little that affects you and I. This is all about government, and this is all about government moving at speed. So one of the key things here is removing impediments to sorting out the crisis. There are a couple of remedial things that they've put in here, sort of by category, and the one is everything, all these decisions can be placed under a single department or a single ministry, just to streamline the process. They specifically say streamline. They also say specifically about particular acts that can be put aside, the Land Usage Act, the Environmental Management Act. So the only thing that actually affects you and I is that we will now be allowed to sell electricity to the grid. That's explicitly put there, worth smiling about. It is a big change, yeah.
But that's a change for the country.
Yeah.
That is a massive step forward. And I have to believe that there is a massively positive groundswell happening as a result of this. We see it in our commercial space. People are moving and acting on this, which is a good
Absolutely,
thing.
and I mean, we just see headlines all over. I've got the Mail and Guardian here, tips from other countries on how to stop load shedding on this side. SA's energy future hanging in the... You know, there we have it. You know what I'm saying? But with it all being under one department, Roy, you know, how do you view this? I mean, with it all under, is it a good thing?
And does the department have the power to do what the mandate is?
Yeah, in fact, I think you're getting to the central question that's sort of buried in the vagueness that is this. There's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of verbiage in here that just opens each and every one of these little regulations to interpretation. And you've got onto the nub there. If you've got one department, and specifically, if the mention is there of being able to dodge the environmental regulations, you are getting into a murky turf.
Right, yeah.
Remembering, of course, that Eskom has been named as the world's worst polluting energy company, and the worst on the planet. And when I say that, I think you picture sort of chimney stacks in a preserved environment and...
Oh, well, there we go.
Springboks coughing.
There you go.
That's not the picture we should have in our mind. The picture we should have in our mind is people dying in hospital beds. 2,200 people die every year in South Africa from air quality issues. And these regulations are going to specifically allow them to sidestep important things like public consultation, because they're going to be able to set timeframes for making decisions. And that opens the door on issues like car powership, which has had environmental impact assessment problems, and the refurbishment of Coburg. So we're going to have to, as citizenry, keep a really close eye on whatever that one department is and what it does with that power.
I would also like to see, I mean, how this, you know, selling back the energy is going to effectively work and be viable, because, I mean, so many private individuals, businesses are investing huge amount of money to kind of safeguard them from load shedding, putting up solar panels, all that kind of thing. So the rollout thereof, are we going to see this, you know, as an effective kind of strategy to look towards ending load shedding?
On mass scale, it's a really effective strategy. It's also one that can be implemented very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Because now you're not looking at massive build projects. I mean, you've got Mxolisi Kaunda, the eThekwini mayor, talking about building a new nuclear plant. I mean, those things always run over time and over budget.
Way
You're
over
talking
budget,
about like
yeah.
a decade to build one of those things. You can have someone come around and put solar panels on your roof this weekend.
Yeah.
And there is a
Yeah,
vacuum. There is a vacuum there of installers and people, technicians, small to medium-sized businesses that are ready to take back ownership of this situation. As South Africans, we see challenges and then we see solutions. I love it. And now you've got a problem. There's news editors phoning the reporters saying, "I've found something to hang the headline on. I've found something to hang the headline on." If you found something that you feel needs to be discussed, please let us know. And Roy will disseminate. I would like to say we would, but he'll tackle it and then we'll ask him the questions afterwards. But please keep those questions, comments, insights coming. 063 408 8863. Buddy, I'm hungry. Do you mind?
Dude, let's get some breakfast going.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. You are back with your Feel Good Breakfast Show Expresso here on S3. It's our wonderful Friday morning. Lots to get through, and there's always something going on in Mzansi, and we have no shortage of important things to talk about. And we're back with our news editor, and he had his breakfast, Roy Simpson, to talk about the headlines. We do encourage you, though, at home to join in these discussions and share your thoughts via our WhatsApp voice note line on 06340888863. As much as that, Roy. There we go. Breakfast sorted. Now we have energy again.
Don't
Let's
hit the
chat.
lull. I was going to say, don't hit that morning lull afterwards. Just like we reshuffled you into the kitchen. Obviously, we've seen a bit of a reshuffle in cabinet. Our former Deputy President, David Mabuza, no longer occupying that particular position. Who's in, who's out? Looks like a couple of heavyweights, notably not in. How do we feel about where this is moving and what's motivating the big moves?
I think the first thing we feel is frustrated. This has been anticipated for a long, long time. We now have a situation where it's been a couple of days that we don't have a deputy president, and you'd think that would be enough to galvanize action, but...
Mayday,
Yeah, but that's not the case. And really, that's not too big a surprise. I mean, Ayanda Dlodlo left the Public Service and Administration Ministry almost exactly a year ago. I mean, in a couple of weeks, that's going to have been vacant for a year. In actual
And what does
ministry.
that mean? What is the knock-on effect of a pivotal person in a position that matters not being there to fulfill that job? What does that look like in terms of the knock-on effect?
Well, at least in theory, the overarching, the vision, the policy and the strategy doesn't get communicated
stops
properly.
dead,
And that's meant to permeate the whole way through all the departments down to the ground where the officers are that affect you and
Systems
I.
management, yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure, yeah.
So without the executive in charge, then in theory, it's just the
treading
same thing
water,
over. They're
yeah,
going to
for
just
sure.
keep running
Yeah,
on
with
the last program put in, you know?
Yeah, with no real change happening. But with regards to the cabinet reshuffle, I mean, where are we at the moment? I mean, has the thing taken place now?
No.
But because we've been anticipating this for so long.
We have. I think we're right on the verge of it. There's some chance it could be this evening. Somehow my instinct is that it's going to be on Sunday.
What is the advantage or the loading, attached to the timing of it right now? What is there to gain in terms of this? Why do we tread water in this instance, in this space? What benefit is there? Are they scrambling pre-election to what is informing the timeline and why this has taken so long and what the anticipation is once we see the reshuffle?
I wish I really, really knew. Sort of reading tea leaves on this one a little and trying to guess what's going on. I imagine that this is all about the power relationships within the ANC in particular. Who should get these positions? So, for example, you have Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma in cabinet at the moment. Currently, the Cogta minister, so in charge of the state of disaster. Very powerful position, but you're also talking about someone who openly defied the executive, the president. And that's uncomfortable. So if you're a manager, an executive, and you have this team of people that are meant to implement for you, you wouldn't really want someone who's openly
who feels independently powerful.
So it's tricky to work out sort of what the outcomes will be. We know Paul Mashatile, for example, will come in as deputy president. That's almost a given. But whether NDZ will stay in her post, that's going to be quite revealing in terms of the internal power politics. I think if she doesn't move, then what we read from that is that it's going to be more of the same, that that's just the way it is, and that President Cyril Ramaphosa is a functionary of the ANC. So that would be the interpretation of that, in which case we can expect a lot more political paralysis. Otherwise, if it's decisive and a lot of new people come in, I think, for example, the electricity minister will be someone unknown without baggage.
You know what?
They've spent this time. So all you were saying is they've spent this time investigating his background to make sure that there is absolutely nothing. And as soon as they can prove that there's nothing, then the reshuffle will fall into place.
Possibly, yeah.
Crazy stuff,
Yeah. You know what, Roy? Thank you very much. We are not done with you yet. There's lots to talk about, so stick around. But yeah, we're all waiting with bated breath to see what is going to be happening with that cabinet reshuffle. And of course, we'll be updating you along the way as well. But for now, let's take a quick break. Mr. Wasty.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around on this beautiful Friday morning. Beautiful because we get to sit with Roy Simpson. He is back to help us unpack what is happening in our world, and it is our world. And of course, the news has been crazy at the moment, but we're going to take a bit more of a wider gaze, get some of the international breaking news as we see it, because it does affect us still. And we encourage you at home to please join in on the discussion. Share your thoughts. 063-408-8863. Miller, I'd love to hear from you specifically.
Exactly. So, Nigeria voted last weekend. We spoke about it, building up to it as well. And on Monday, Roy said that he thought the change was in the air, but now it looks like the ruling party's Bola Tinubu has won. Roy, what happened? Did the crystal ball break there?
Yeah, I did a little.
It's called hope. It's called hope, Roy. Don't ever let the hope be crushed.
That's kind of where it's at. Look, the opinion polls suggested that Tinubu was going to go. In fact, that Peter Obi was going to win. That was what the opinion polls were saying. Then we had all these journalists on the ground saying the youth is mobilized, they're getting behind him, they're tired of the way things are at the moment and changes in the air. I got caught up in the hype and the hope. And I think perhaps transferred some of my own desires and ambitions onto it. Tired of old leadership, old ideas, the old pathways of like deception and corruption. And you can see all of that in the Nigerian political landscape as well. So there's that resonance, there's that familiarity. And because of this desire to see change here, change in the world, you think, oh, it's going to be change there. And so now I got caught up in it, the hype and the hope.
But not necessarily, because I think that's part of the issue, is that young people, and we saw how involved and invested young Nigerians. We've seen that over the last 3-4 years. We've seen unrest action. We've seen people literally risking their lives on that principle. But I think coming with that is this disassociation from the old way and from the politics. How far removed is the politics of today from a young Nigerian person in terms of how it affects their life? So you can certainly understand that.
Yeah, what is the future? What is going to happen now? I mean, we know that the votes have been counted and we know who won, but is it going to be contested?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no question whatsoever. They will be,
yeah.
That is kind of par for the course, certainly in the African experience. They will be going to court. It's not Kenya. It's not 2017. The chances of it being annulled and turned over by the courts are quite slim. The opposition is painting a particular picture of the elections being chaos and violent and huge technical glitches.
Well, they're politicking,
Well, of course they are, and they're trying to lay out their case before the court case even happens. I don't think there was enough of that. Based on the international observers' reports, I don't think there was enough to get them through a court process. The other real concern for the future is, do the youth now disengage?
Well, that's exactly it.
Because we've tried, and what now?
Nothing happens.
Is this a mark of why should we even bother voting? If we move a little further afield, Israel, a new proposal to change the judicial system. Why has this had such a knee-jerk reaction? Why is there unrest in Israel? And it's a crazy part of the world at the moment. We understand this, but what specifically here has proved to cause such a ruction?
Well, this is different from the other chaos that goes with the region. This is internal. This is Israeli citizens, particularly Jewish Israeli citizens, going onto the ground in tens of thousands and holding these protests. Because the law that's on the table at the moment, and it only needs 2 more readings to become law, includes that the Knesset, the parliament, can overrule the courts. So that's the highest court in the land will reach a judgment, and the Knesset, by a simple majority of 61, which is half plus one. They'll be able to go,
a
no,
few friends,
that
yeah.
court ruling, we're overturning it. Not only that, the courts won't be able to review the basic law, which is their equivalent to the Constitution. So the Knesset can get together, they can redesign the basic law. There's nothing the courts can do about that. But anyway, they might not, because the Parliament's giving itself the right to appoint the judges.
So terrifying and completely wrong. Okay, we're behind you. We're behind you. Whoever is putting your hand up right now in Israel, we are behind you. And Roy, thank you so much. I know we have to really simplify it to understand it, but it makes a massive difference in our world to have a bit of control and understanding of what's going on. Now, you've actually inspired me this morning. You're telling me what I need to hear from a South African context. There is opportunity through this adversity. You just need to know what's going on. So stay connected. And once again, if you want to weigh in on anything, 063-408-8863. I'm trying to buy time before we have to go and spell. No!